Colonel Reed, I have 1900. The floor is yours if you are ready, ma'am.
Thank you, Major Rolf. Appreciate everybody showing up for this webinar about OCPs. We're learning this as we go, but I hope that we'll be able to share enough information with you so that you can make informed decisions about this new uniform that has been authorized. So, Major Rolf, if you can change the slide, please. Give you a little bit of an update. This is what we're going to do this evening. First of all, we'll talk about the wing commander's intent. My objective with these uniforms. Major Rolf will then present a very detailed discussion about the wear of the OCPs for Civil Air Patrol members. He will go through the different parts of the ICL, the regulation that will impact those in Civil Air Patrol. And then we'll discuss where to find the OCPs and the accessories. And then if we have time, there will be questions and answers. Let me just say that all attendees on this webinar have been muted and your cameras turned off. That's not only to save some bandwidth, but it's also going to make the webinar go smoother without interruptions. If you have a question and you're afraid that you're not going to remember your question, please put it in the chat. The chat questions will be answered in order. At the end, if there's time remaining, we'll open the floor and we'll answer some of the questions orally, or maybe even allow people to actually chime in. This webinar is being recorded. The recording and the slides will be available to members, and we will post where you can find those. So we're looking forward to this, and so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we will we'll move forward. Next slide, please. Okay. Well, there you go. So let me just talk briefly about my commander's intent. Obviously, the national commander and Cap USAF have said that we are going to be using OCPs. This is an authorized uniform effective the 1st of November. Therefore, we can wear this uniform. The phase-out period is October of 2028. That means we have 3 years to make this transition. There's no rush. Members are not required to change from the ABU to the OCP until this date. Now, just as a reminder, the OCP can only be worn by those who meet, the weight and grooming standards. So tonight we're not really talking about Civil Air Patrol corporate uniforms. We're talking about the Air Force OCP. So remember, you're not required to change until the end of October 2028, 3 years from now. My intent, and I've had some questions about how squadrons, can squadrons limit or restrict what their members might do. So there's some questions about everybody being in uniform, everybody being in the same uniform. We just went through this a few years ago when we went from BDUs to ABUs. There is going to be a transition period where not everybody's going to be wearing the same uniform, and that's okay because the ABU and the OCP are both authorized uniforms. So therefore, my intent is that no unit commander in Maryland Wing or any activity in Maryland Wing will restrict or limit OCP wear. No unit commander or activity in Maryland Wing can require OCP wear prior to October 31st, 2028. In other words, our members have 2 different authorized uniforms they can wear, and they can wear them. A unit commander cannot say nobody can wear the OCP until everybody has it. Okay, it's not going to work like that. We are going to have this awkward transition period, and that's just how it's going to work. It will all work out, trust me. We will have a period where early on you'll see mostly ABUs, a few OCPs. Then it'll be about half and half. And as we get closer to the deadline, it'll be that rare ABU that we will see. But it's still authorized until the end of October 2028. There is a clause, and I believe Major Rolf will discuss this, that unit commanders can authorize an alternate headgear. However, there is also a clause in there that you cannot do that without wing commander approval. At this early stage of the game, My hope is that unit commanders won't be thinking that far just yet. But if you do opt to have an alternate headgear, you need to run it by me first. So, and I will want to know, what it looks like, all of that before I will give my approval. With this uniform, we will be looking more and more like the actual military. The ABU, we had a very distinctive uniform, the black boots, the blue name tapes. We were still ABUs when everybody else was in the OCPs. We looked different. Now it's going to be a lot easier for the public to confuse us with the military. We are one, total force. However, we need, and we need to look that part. So yeah, it's a little bit more strict, I think, just because we have to look, we do have to look, the part. So members will only wear the OCP when they have a complete and correct uniform. There's no mixing of pieces. You can't get the OCP and go, well, I don't have the boots yet, so I'll just wear the OCP with my black boots. No, it's all or none. You make sure you have a complete and correct uniform before you transition over to the OCP. And again, there is no rush. We have 3 years to get this done. So let's talk about cadets. We have mostly, most of our members are cadets. We have 1,200 of them in the wing. We get new cadets and we issue them uniforms. Continue to issue them ABUs. It's okay. Guess what? In 3 years, most of them will outgrow that ABU. Their feet are still growing. Don't have them buy boots that, they may have to buy new ones. You can still get black boots, pretty inexpensive, especially for the smaller cadets. Continue to issue those ABUs. It's still an authorized uniform combination. For cost savings for families, continue to issue those ABUs to new members. Don't say, well, everybody who has ABUs can continue, but all new members will have to have OCPs. Now, we have ABUs. Many squadrons have a stockpile of uniforms. Continue to use them. 3 years is a long time. Many of our cadets will outgrow the ABUs. So let's not force these families to spend extra money right now when we can give them a uniform for free. Members are permitted to get the OCPs, but it's going to probably be at their own cost. We don't have a stockpile of OCPs. We just don't. This came out, it kind of surprised everybody. We don't have a stockpile. We have a lot of ABUs, but we do not have OCPs. So therefore, the OCPs are going to be have to be purchased by the members, and that comes with a cost versus giving them a used ABU. Maryland Wing will slowly phase out our current ABU supply. I've talked with our supply officer, Lieutenant Tolbert. She's going to start with the largest uniforms. We have a lot of, like size 50 extra long. I don't know too many cadets that wear that. So we're going to start phasing those out, but we're going to keep the uniforms that we use. So if you still need ABUs, please reach out to the wing. We do have those. As we are able, Maryland Wing will will begin to acquire OCPs. But I can tell you right now that due to the demand, we're not going to keep that stockpile. As soon as we get them, they're probably going to go out because a lot of people want them. So bottom line, don't depend on the wing to get these OCPs for you. It's going to take us some time. With the ABUs, we got very lucky. The Air Force phased out of them, and they donated all of those ABUs to us. They're still wearing the OCPs. They're not going to give them to us because they would have to buy new ones. So it is a change, and there's some very clear nuances to the regulation. And I'm going to turn this over to Major Nate Rolfe, Director of Cadet Programs. He's studied this regulation. He's got a really good handle on all of the little intricacies. So Major Rolfe, take it away.
All right, thank you, Colonel Reed. I'll start out by just putting a big shout out and thank you to Major Engel from the Florida Wing, who actually created the majority of the slide deck. This is an excellent deck. We're not going to reinvent the wheel, but actually provide you information in the best format we can. So started off with the overview of the changes in the interim change letter 25-06. Colonel Reed already spoke about the 3-year phase-in plan for the OCPs and the phase-out of the ABUs on 31 October 2028. A couple other little things that were slipped into that ICL is the transition of black boots to the coyote brown boots for the Air Force style flight duty uniform, which shouldn't affect most of our cadets, but if you are a member that's wearing the flight duty uniform, those boot colors will change. No change to the corporate style uniforms for shoe color. And then the blue beret has been authorized for members that have earned it through that national training at unit level meetings and activities only. If they go outside of the unit, then they will not be authorized to wear that beret. These are the 2 OCP variations. I think a lot of you have probably seen these in person or have seen a lot of chatter online. There are 2 styles to the OCP. There is the all season and then the hot weather, the IHWCU that you see referenced in the ICL. A couple big differences to point out on how you can tell the difference. On the all season, you will have 2 chest pockets at an angle below the name tapes, and there's a single Velcro patch on the sleeve over that particular pocket area. On the hot weather OCPs, there is no pocket in the chest, and then the pockets on the sleeves actually have a flap, so there's 2 distinct Velcro areas. That is important when we start talking about how patches are put on there as well. So do keep in mind which ones you're getting. We have seen indications of some challenges in patch application on one uniform over the other, and we'll address those here in a few slides. So let's talk a little bit more about the coat and the shirt and what goes in there. Biggest thing is there's really 2 documents that you need to be aware of when you're looking at OCP regulations. Obviously, CAPR 39-1, that's Civil Air Patrol's uniform regulation. That is your primary guide. But it also gives reference to Air Force Instruction 36-2903, which has its own chapter on OCPs. For the most part, our regulation closely mirrors or copies the information in the Air Force Instruction, but there are a few details that are in that one that can help you out. For example, you'll see some graphics here later on about patches on the shirt. The Air Force Instruction gives a much better overview of that than our regulation does. The Air Force regulation also provides some guidance on when it is inappropriate to wear OCPs off base. And so this is something for you to be familiar with. And I think the trend is going to be CAP is going to be pointing more towards Air Force regulations for us to follow rather than trying to reproduce everything themselves. On the shirt itself, you can have a maximum of 4 patches on the Velcro sections on the sleeves. If you are a past commander, that does not include the past commander badge that you wear. You also may have a maximum of 4 badges above the Civil Air Patrol tape. This is a change from the ABUs where you were allowed 4 patches total. So you're basically restricted in the number of badges that you could wear based on that restriction because that included wing patch and any other type of patch you may have worn on the pockets. So this allows members to wear more badges on the chest of their shirt if they'd like to. T-shirts. It's a new color T-shirt. Coyote brown, otherwise known as tan 499, and it must be tucked in the OCP trousers. This can be long sleeve, short sleeve, it doesn't matter. The color is what matters. The shirt that is worn with the ABUs is not authorized. That desert tan shirt, that light tan, does not work anymore, at least not for OCPs. The morale and squadron shirts that have been allowed before, where you can have a logo of a certain size on the shirt underneath the OCP coat, is still authorized, and that has to be approved by the wing commander. Do not starch or hot press or iron the OCP shirt. This is a military utility uniform. It is meant for field work. It is not designed to be starched or pressed into a nice, neat shape. It's camouflage. It's meant to break up pattern of the body. It can have some folds and wrinkles to it without being unsightly. Do not starch it. I know the Air Force used to starch BDUs back in the day. A lot of people still iron the OCPs. Don't put a lot of effort into the shirt because it'll actually ruin the material. This is emphasized really before, and I want to emphasize it again too. The OCP is not authorized for wear if it is not being worn correctly. Wearing it correctly means you have all the required accessories and accoutrements that go on the shirt. So that means your name, the Civil Air Patrol tape, The required patches on the sleeves, the rank, everything that is mandatory per the regulation must be on your shirt or it is not in compliance, and you may not wear a non-compliant uniform. That's not just OCPs. Squadron commanders should be enforcing this for all Air Force style uniforms that our members wear. If they're not wearing it correctly because it's incomplete or something else is wrong, it should not be worn. And finally, this, as I mentioned earlier, this is a combat uniform for the Air Force and the military. There are glint squares on the sleeves. These are infrared readable squares for support in the field. There is a tab on the shirt that is meant to cover those. Those must remain covered. There's no point in time when we will have our glint squares exposed on the CAP OCP uniform. Let's talk a little bit about what goes on the uniform. The cap tape, name tape, and rank. So these may be either Velcroed on the uniform, and the uniforms come straight from the manufacturer with Velcro sections on them, or they can be sewn directly on there. If you choose one or the other, all three of these items must be the same. Your name tape, the Civil Air Patrol tape, and your rank must either all three be Velcro or all three be sewn directly on the shirt. If you sew it on the shirt, it should go without saying, but I believe nothing actually does. If you're going to sew things on the shirt, take the Velcro patches off first, and then sew the patches directly on. It's recommended for cadets that their rank is actually kept as Velcro, which means everything stays Velcro with these three, because it allows them to promote with less cost for maintenance of the uniform. Also, if you what your shirt has does not affect what your cap has. So the patrol cap has a section on the back for your name and rank on the front that can be Velcro or sewn on as well. Your shirt does not have to match your patrol cap. So those are separate issues. If you have qualification badges that are worn above the Civil Air Patrol tape, these can also either be sewn or hook and loop Velcro. Again, whatever badges you wear, they must all be one or the other. These do not have to match the CAP and the name tape. So you could have your name tape and Civil Air Patrol Velcro and your badges sewn on, or vice versa, or they can all be the same thing. One big thing to keep in mind is if you do Velcro these badges on, they need to completely cover the Velcro patch that they're adhered to. You can't just slap a big square of Velcro over your Civil Air Patrol tape and just have things on there wherever they want to. And all of our patches, except for the sleeves, you should not be able to see the Velcro behind the patches themselves. All right, this is some graphics showing the placement of badges. I know when I read the ICL, I had to read this part about 4 or 5 times because it's just a lot of wordiness in here. This is a great reference. There is no graphic in our regulation, but as I mentioned earlier, the Air Force regulation does have a graphic that shows how badges can be placed. So key thing is to know which ones are which. If you have Group 1 badges, which are considered chaplain aviation, military, aeronautical space, cyberspace, and missile operation badges, those are considered Group 1, and those are mandatory for wear. If you have more than one CAP aviation badge, like I have both UAS technician and UAS mission pilot, I can only wear one of those two. If you have a CAP badge, it takes precedence over your military badges. So you may be an F-18 pilot, and you're also a Cessna pilot for CAP. Well, that Cessna pilot's going to take precedence over that military one. Group 2 badges, these are optional for wear, but if you do wear them, this provides you, again, a graphic of how those will be worn. Those are your operational and qualification badges. That's your ground team, your incident commander, a few of the other badges. If you have parachute wings for the military, other military qualification or skill badges, that's included in here. Those are worn in accordance with precedence of order. Air Force badges will go over other service badges if you are wearing military, and all CAP badges take precedence over anything else in this group as well. Right side of this slide shows you different configurations for wearing 1, 2, 3, or 4 badges using different styles. And I'm going to switch here in a minute to another slide that's going to show options for 3 and 4 badges, because those can be configured slightly differently based on the regulation. This slide shows you those badges, 3 badges on the bottom section or 4 that can be moved either vertical or horizontal to allow how those are worn. You can see on the far right, bottom right, the chaplain badge will always be on top if that is worn. A couple other things to note on this one: if you are one of these superstars that has a lot of badges, but maybe you don't have a lot of real estate on your uniform, make sure that those badges are not going over this OCP coat's shoulder seam. And if you do have, mostly Navy folks, but if you do have a badge that has been awarded in gold, it can be embroidered in gold in a dark blue background. If you cannot get it in those colors, then you can wear it in OCP colors, but that's only for those very select military badges that can't be acquired in the standard blue for CAP. Let's talk about sleeve patches for a little bit. This is where there's a lot of confusion and a lot of interest, because this is where we get to show off who we are. So there are 4 patches that can be worn on the sleeve. On the right sleeve, you must wear, it is mandatory that you wear a reversed full color US flag. So 2 key things on that one is reversed, which means if you're looking at it, it's going to appear backwards to the viewer because it is meant to be flying behind you as if your arm was a flagpole. And it's full color, which means red, white, blue, and a gold outline around it. Do not wear subdued, different colors, the green to the black type of versions of this patch that many military members may wear. It must be the full color. This is a mandatory patch. If you have nothing else on that particular sleeve, you still will have the U.S. flag. The what you'll have on the right sleeve is your unit of assignment. And so this is your squadron patch if you are at the squadron or flight level. Group patch, wing patch going on up the chain. This is the unit that you are primarily assigned to. I know we have members that have duties in multiple units. Some are attached to a squadron or assigned to a squadron, but they have a duty at wing, or they're assigned to one squadron and they're helping another one by serving as a finance officer, something like that. It is your primary unit. So when you pull up e-services, what does it say your unit is? That's the unit that you will wear here. You may only wear your unit of assignment patch if it is in compliance with CAP Regulation 110-3. This is the CAP heraldry regulation. It gives guidance on how the patches are designed, what they need to look like, size, shape, etc. Last check we did is there are 6 squadrons in the wing right now that have approved patches, or approved emblems, excuse me. Those that don't have that, you'll need to go through the process to get those approved before they can be worn. A slight nuance in the regulations: 110-3 says the region commander approves the emblem. The new 39-1 says the wing commander approves the patch. And so this provides an extra level of quality control to make sure that just because your emblem has been approved, make sure your patch actually looks professional and is of good quality to be worn. If your patch is not approved for wear by the wing commander because it has not met that quality control or is not in compliance with 110-3, you may not wear a patch underneath the flag on your right sleeve. That is allowed in the regulation. You can go patchless on that sleeve only. On the left sleeve, again, mandatory is the AUX patch that needs to be on the upper part of the Velcro. This is one area where we've seen some issues. Regulations say that the patches may not extend over the edge of Velcro, and on the hot weather patch, from what I'm hearing from the field, that the aux patch is actually bigger than the patch of Velcro. So that is something that we're looking to see some guidance from headquarters on how that's supposed to be handled. If you have the all-weather with a single slab of Velcro, it fits on there just fine. Beneath that patch, the mandatory requirement is to be worn your higher headquarters patch. If you are in the squadron or group, that means you're wearing a wing patch on your left arm. If you are on a wing staff, that means your unit of assignment is MD001, then you will wear the region patch on that sleeve. Our patches are 110-3 compliant, so we don't have to worry about that concern. For cadets, they may wear if they have an authorized NCSA patch that is normally worn on the pockets of the ABUs, that may be worn in lieu of the higher headquarters patch. It must be one or the other. If you are a volunteer university instructor, if you have service on the command council, CSAG, I think there's probably only one person on this call that does, but you may also wear those patches instead of your higher headquarters as well. So for the vast majority of us, that's going to be the wing patch on our left sleeve, and for cadets, wing patch or an NCSA if they have an appropriate patch for that. This is an example of how the sleeves are going to look if you are at the flight or squadron level. Again, on the right sleeve, you're going to have that reverse flag with your squadron patch below it. On the left sleeve, you're going to have the aux with the wing patch as your higher headquarters. This is an alternate configuration for someone that has an NCSA patch. Example of at the group level, if you are one of the few folks assigned just solely at a group level and you have an approved group patch, which group 5, congratulations, you're the one, then you may wear the group 5 patch with the wing patch on the left sleeve. And for those of us at Maryland Wing Staff as our primary unit, we'll wear the wing patch on the right sleeve with the Region patch on the left sleeve. Those of you that are aware, Maryland Wing Headquarters does have a squadron patch for MD001. It is not 110-3 compliant, and as I understand, the region commander has also directed that we're going to wear the wing patch anyway, even if it was. All right, let's talk about trousers. This is a little bit less complicated because you don't have to put anything on them. Basically, it needs to be worn like a solid set of uniform pants. Waistband at the airman's waist or the cadet's waist. Make sure the pockets are secured so that anything inside is not visible. If you have a patrol cap or a beret that may stick out of the pocket, that's the only exception to that if it's put in the cargo pocket. Boots must be bloused and present a bloused appearance. They need to be done using a blousing device. That's usually one of those rubber type blousing bands that you can get off of Vanguard or pretty much anywhere. Do not wrap the legs around your pant, the pant legs around your legs so tightly that it looks like you essentially have a peg leg going in. There's still an authorization for tucking, but the blouse appearance is what we're looking for. Depending on the boots that you're wearing, your blousing may be higher or lower, but it will not extend below the third eyelet from the top of the boot. When we get to the boots, you'll see that there is different sizes on the boots, but regardless, the blousing will not go past the third eyelet from the top. And again, do not starch or hot press these, and you will wear a one-piece tan 499 rigger style belt. The belt may extend past the belt buckle, so that's different than what you see on the Class Bs. This is the tan 499, same color as the t-shirt. So a lot of us probably have a light colored tan belt. This is going to be a darker belt. Probably get away with it because no one's going to see unless you're taking your top off, but do pay attention that 499 is the darker color brown, not the light color sand that we're used to seeing with ABUs. Undershirt, one on the left is that tan 499, coyote brown. The irony is this is basically the same color shirt that a lot of services wore with the BDUs back in the day. So the sand color one that we're used to seeing with ABU is not authorized with the OCP. Same regulations about morale insignia can be worn on the shirt underneath it. It cannot be visible when the OCP is worn. It still must be approved by the wing commander, and it needs to be on the left side of the chest if you're wearing an organizational emblem. You can also have a design on the back of the shirt as long as it's authorized by the commander. Boots, this is one that a lot of people are asking about as well. They need to be suede, so no more shining boots. Some people are happy, some are not. Either way, they're going to be suede boots, and they need to be a coyote brown in color. It is not a dark brown. It is also not the desert tan that a lot of us have seen. So you're going to be looking for basically, you see down here the second bullet. Look for boots that state they're compliant with the Air Force or the Army regulations. The Marine Corps wears a slightly darker brown boot than the Army or the Air Force do. So if you have access to donated boots or boots in a military store, make sure that you're looking for the right color brown. I will tell you, Marine Corps boots also usually have the Eagle Globe and Anchor logo on them, and so they're pretty easy to identify. The same thing that we've seen with other boots. You can have a zipper or elastic can be worn. You can have safety toe or not. You can have a logo or brand name. A lot of these boots now will actually have the name of the brand across the heel somewhere. So that's allowed, but you cannot have other designs emblazoned in them. If they do have a logo, that logo needs to be the same color as the boot itself. So don't have a big white Nike swoosh on the heel of your brown boot. Right now, the Coyote Brown boots are only authorized with the OCP uniform, and as we transition in the Air Force style flight duty uniform. Do not wear them with corporate style utility. Do not use them with corporate style duty uniforms. Don't move these over into ABUs. ABUs are still black boots, so again, it's all or nothing on the OCPs. Socks are actually dictated by color, Coyote Brown or Sage Green. If you have black socks, technically they are not authorized. This is another area where people shouldn't be seeing your socks, but you never know when someone like me is going to call you out because your blouse pants pulled up too high. So make sure you're wearing the proper color socks as well. Headgear. There's two different types of headgear authorized with the OCP uniform. We'll talk about the patrol cap first. Headgear in general is always going to be worn outside unless it's a no head area. Same position on the head as with the ABU patrol cap. It needs to be worn straight on the head, and the cap band needs to be straight around the head, parallel to the ground, not worn back on your cap like you're going to a baseball game, or pushed real far forward so you can't see out from underneath the brim. It needs to fit snugly, not bulking out too much, not a bunch of space in between the head and the hair, and there should be no hair visible underneath the cap and the forehead. No blocking or ranger rolls of the patrol cap. So I know a lot, especially cadets, like to think that looks cool. Sure, maybe it does. It's not authorized. Rank can be worn on the front of the cap if you are a cadet officer or a senior member or officer. That rank can either be sewn on or Velcroed on. The regulations, I'm not going to read all the specifics about location and size of it. Just understand that if you buy a patch, a cap that has the Velcro on there, your rank's going to be about the same size as the one that's on the chest of your shirt. But it's going to be all or nothing. If you have, you also put your name on the back of the cap, so that's going to be either Velcroed or sewn on as well. These two items need to match. If you sew on the rank, you need to sew on your name on the back. If you want to wear Velcro on your name, then your rank needs to be Velcro as well. If you are a NCO, a cadet NCO, or a cadet airman, you will not wear rank on the front of your patrol cap, and you will not have a blank piece of Velcro on the front as well. So your patrol cap should be completely empty on the front. Do not walk around without any rank or without anything Velcro to that patch on the hat. The Velcro patch needs to be taken off if you're not authorized to wear rank. The tactical ball cap has another section of authorized headgear. Again, same situation. You can wear rank on the front, sewn on or Velcro. There are different types that are available. This is actually an image of the one available directly from Vanguard. So this requires you to put a Velcro patch on the front if you wish to Velcro the rank on there. There may be caps that you can buy that have a larger Velcro field on there, and a lot of that is more civilian oriented for people to have different types of patches. You can go buy them at a Ranger Rick store, things like that. Make sure that Velcro loop is that Velcro field is a 2x2 inch and not a 2" by 3, so that you're not having Velcro show out from underneath the rank. But again, you can have sewn on or Velcro on this one, and chaplains can wear their insignia on this as well. The regulations about how it fits and how hair not coming out from the other end, still from the front, still remains the same on this cap. If you do have a adjustable backing that has a hole in the back, females can have a ponytail go through that in the back of their hair if they want to. And then finally, OCP outerwear and cold weather accessories. The military's done a great job at building up a lot of different levels of cold weather gear that can be worn with the uniform. Um, on this situation, you're going to wear OCP pattern or the Coyote Brown version of anything that you do wear. Keep in mind the ICL did not change the portion of the uniform regulation that says safety of cadets will trump uniformity in terms of cold weather. So if you have a cadet that is doesn't have appropriate uniform cold weather gear, but it's a matter of them either freezing or wearing a North Face jacket, put them in something that's going to keep them warm, and we'll worry about the uniformity later. However, you do have the various different items that can be worn. The Coyote Brown fleece, it can be worn inside. This is the same thing that we're used to seeing with the ABUs as far as the fleece goes, just a different color. You have 3 sections of Velcro on there, one for your name, one for CAP, and one for your rank. This can be worn indoors if you want to. And then if you have any kind of thermal underwear, you can wear it underneath the OCP coat, and then the fleece is worn over the top. Other types of cold weather items that can be authorized for the OCP, you can have scarves, earmuffs, headbands, watch caps, gloves. Again, they're looking for uniformity in the color, so we're looking for Coyote Brown or black in terms of most of the things that you wear above your neck, and gloves can be black, sage, or Coyote Brown. Every aspect of the extreme cold weather clothing system, which you'll see on the bottom of the slide here, is authorized as long as it is worn in the appropriate color and style. You'll notice that the level 7, which is an extreme cold weather parka and trousers, I don't think it gets that cold here in Maryland, but if we do have some sub 30 degree, negative 30 degree weather, maybe you want to get those. Those can be worn in sage green. And again, you can purchase appropriately colored or patterned items from commercial suppliers as long as they comply with the regulations in terms of how they're presented, how they're worn. Just make sure there's no large logos. Don't have a big Under Armour logo on the back of your OCP coat because you got it from that store, for example. All right. Colonel, did you want me to go ahead and go over the potential supply issues as well?
I can do that if you would like.
All right. You drive. I'll flip the slides for you.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm also going to ask you, I see Colonel Thompson is also online, and he has been helping with the chat, but if you want to also monitor the chat, that would be good. Some great questions coming in on the chat. So otherwise, let me just talk about where to buy. I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of days doing some online shopping. I haven't purchased anything yet, but I've been looking around to see where we can get these things. I'm very mindful of the cost to our members. CAP, yes, it does stand for come and pay, but this is one of those areas that some of our members, especially families with multiple cadets, this can get very pricey. When I added up the cost of buying everything new from Vanguard, I came up with a minimum of $275, and that was with the cheapest boots out there. So yeah, it is expensive. So there are some areas that you can shop around. So let's just talk about those. So first of all, let me reiterate, Maryland Wing does not have a supply of OCPs, boots, or the accessories. You're going to have to get them on your own. You're going to have to find places where you can get them. So first of all, the pants and the tops, you can get those from Vanguard. If you have access, if you have a military ID, whether retired or active duty, you can get those from AAFES. I do a lot of AAFES online. You could go to the local military clothing sales, which is AAFES, the Air Force, Army Air Force Exchange Service. You could go to Amazon. Proper.com is also a good resource for some of these things. There are other online sources that you can go to, such as eBay. You can get used. I highly recommend you use caution on those. Unless you're very confident in the person you're buying them from, I personally would recommend you not use eBay. Based on Lieutenant Tolbert, our wing supply officer, she did a little bit of checking and she found that right now the Fort Meade Airman's Attic has them for free. I don't know if we get a whole bunch of CAP members going there, it may go fast. They may go fast, and you may go there and they wouldn't have your size. However, right now they're currently free. If you go to Joint Base Andrews Airman's Attic, they're charging $15 a set. Still not a bad price because they're $69 per piece at Vanguard for the pants and for the top. Both $69. So if you can find them, great. You can go to local thrift stores. Lieutenant Tolbert said the Laurel Goodwill. Some people have had really good luck there. Check with your local thrift stores, especially those that are around military bases. You might get lucky. It's always hit or miss based on the sizes and things. Next slide, please. While he's switching the slides, let me just say that in my looking around, I looked at the reviews. When you're looking for these pants and the tops, especially for the ladies, what I'm noticing, and I think we know, yeah, I don't wear men's stuff, but for the ladies, military uniforms tend to run small. What I am understanding about the OCPs is, at least in the ladies' sizes, they are running very small. You may have to buy 2 sizes larger than what you would normally buy. So don't necessarily, if look at your ABUs and just buy that size. You probably want to go somewhere and try these on if you can. Otherwise, if you have some ability to sew, buy them a little larger and then tailor them. Otherwise, what I'm reading, especially in the AFES chat, and these are military members that are buying these, that they are spending, $50, $60 on this, and then they're still having to pay just about that much to have it tailored. So be very careful about the sizing when you go to buy these. Ranks, tapes, and badges, those are available at Vanguard. Vanguard is the only authorized vendor for CAP specific insignia and patches. That means CAP specific is the key word there. The reverse US flag patch is not a CAP specific patch. You can get that anywhere as long as it is full color, in reverse, and matches the size we need. Again, Maryland Wing does not have a supply, so you're going to want to check with your unit supply officer. Squadron commanders, you might want to consider buying some of these in bulk and then, selling those out, to your members. So next slide, please. Okay, the sleeve patches. So there's a couple different places for this. Again, Vanguard is the only place to get CAP specific. Therefore, the aux patch, Vanguard is the place to go. And honestly, the aux patch is $3. It's not a whole lot, except that they're going to nail you for shipping. So maybe pool with your squadron commanders. Again, maybe consider buying in bulk, selling them to your members to help them get through all of this. The US patch, full color, in reverse, you can get them from Vanguard, Amazon. There's multiple online sources that you can get them. Make sure it is the full color version. There are the subdued color versions out there, but you want to make sure that it's what we are authorized to wear, and that's the full color reverse. So it looks like the flag is flying backwards as you walk through. Think of if you're moving forward, and the flag, your arm is a flagpole, the flag is flying backwards. That flag, you can get them at Vanguard. You can get a Vanguard, let me see that right now. That patch is costing you over $6. There are cheaper places to get them. Amazon, there's other online sources. The Maryland Wing patch is available at Vanguard. You can get it either in the Velcro or the non-Velcro. You can do either one. They're already there. The Mid-Atlantic region patch is in Vanguard. Now, I had to actually check with the region on this one because I couldn't find it under the wing patches, under those standard ones. You have to go to the specialty patch section where you're going to find all the NCSA patches. That's where you will find the region patch. It is not available with a Velcro, so you'll have to add the Velcro yourself. I've also been told that the region patch is under they're working towards changing it up. So don't be surprised if you go and spend the money on it and then, just down the road they change it out. So just be forewarned. NCSA patches, you can find those at Vanguard. There's not too many places you can get this. However, Vanguard is the place. Or if you went to the NCSA, maybe they handed them out there. Some of them will have Velcro, some of them will not. So you may have to add that Velcro to your patch. Squadron patch, check with your unit supply officer. Again, we have six squadrons in one group that are approved, so they are the only ones right now that will be allowed to wear them. As squadrons get those approved and work through that process, and it is a process because it has to meet the heraldry regulation, and it has to go through and be approved not only by me, but it has to be approved by the region commander. So there is a process. If you are not one of those squadrons, and I did list those in the chat, let me go find it real quick so I can just say which ones those are. Maybe I can find it in the chat. Yeah, okay. So it's Glenelg Martin, Easton, Mount Airy, Parkland, Granite, and Hartford. Those are the only squadrons that have current compliant patches. Group 5 is the only group to have right now to have a compliant patch. These are ones that have been approved in the last under this new the new 110-3. So otherwise, check with your unit supply officer. Encourage your unit to get in compliance. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've talked a lot about, if there's not a Velcro there, you can add that Velcro. So what you need is a hook and loop kit. Hook and loop Velcro is the brand name for hook and loop. It just means that one side has loops, one side has hooks. You hit them together and they attach. You can find these at Vanguard. They will sell them. However, you can get these in just about any store that sells clothing items. These, you want to look for this brownish coyote brown color. You don't want something in a different color, just in case it is seen. Now, anytime you put a patch on, it should cover that whole Velcro area. But what I don't recommend you do is use white or any of those other colors. Try and get the color that is going to match the uniform, so that should it be seen behind your patch in some way, it's not going to stand out. But you can get those anyway. Vanguard, stores with sewing items, Walmart, Joann's, Hobby Lobby might have them. Any of those places you can pick these up. And so look for those. Next slide, please. Okay, the undershirt. Again, we cannot wear the shirt we wear for our ABUs cannot be worn under the OCP. The t-shirt must be coyote brown, which is the tan 499. Long shirt or short sleeve. You can get these from Vanguard. You can get these from AFES. They're pretty expensive. I'm not sure why it costs so much. However, you can do a company called Rothco. You could also get them from Proper. Online sources, Amazon, Walmart. When I was a squadron commander, I got t-shirts in bulk from places like alldayshirts.com. However, and then you can buy them in bulk. We were able to get shirts for, $2, $3 a piece. Vanguard, you're looking at the t-shirt. One t-shirt is $8. So you can get these in other areas. However, make sure you have the correct color. Not all the places are going to say tan 499. So just be sure that whoever is making that purchase verifies that it is the color that we need. Next slide, please. Okay, the OCP belt, it's a rigger style belt that is also coyote brown. This is a different color than the desert tan that we are using for our ABUs. And you might think, well, no one's going to see it. It's underneath my blouse. However, if you wind up deep blousing, you need to have you do need to have that correct belt. So make sure you do it correctly. Integrity is doing the right thing even if nobody is looking. Nobody's going to be looking under your blouse, but do it right. Have the right belt under there. These are available again from Vanguard. Vanguard price for the belt is $10. AFES, you can get them there. Again, Rothko proper. You can find them on Amazon. Again, ensure you have the right color. So next slide. Okay, and the boots. So I spent a lot of time looking at boots. Again, Maryland Wing does not have a supply of boots on hand. Personally, I have a problem about wearing used boots because, if shoes are worn, they tend to fit the other person's foot. That's my personal hang up. You can do what you want. However, you can purchase them from AFES. You can purchase them from Vanguard. They are expensive. They're, from AFES or Vanguard, you're talking 120 up for these. And that's why I really recommend that if you've got a cadet and they're okay in the ABUs, let them stay in those ABUs. It's the boots that are going to cost a lot. And when cadets are growing, they go through a period where in about 6 months, their shoe sizes change several times. So we don't want to have to, ask our families to purchase these boots over and over. However, there are other sources online, such as Amazon, proper, Rothko, eBay. Again, use caution if you're purchasing from eBay because you don't know the source. Lieutenant Tolbert, she has done some research, and there are 2 links here. And I'm not sure if we can add those links into the chat, Major Rolf. I'm not sure if you can copy those and get those into the chat. These are just examples. And you can see that we have this disclaimer at the end of all of these slides that these links doesn't mean that we're endorsing this stuff. It just means that it's going to meet our it's going to meet our colors and the requirements. When you're looking around, I would look for boots that say specifically that they will meet the military requirements. Some kind of wording like that. Be cautious. A couple of the boots I looked at, they looked really nice, but then if you looked at a reverse picture of the boots, the back of the boot had a really, I don't know, I thought it was rather bold branding on it that was darker than the boot, so you want to steer away from anything that is going to be darker, any kind of a logo on your boot. You want to make sure that it blends in with everything. So the boots are going to be probably your biggest purchase after the top and the pants. And you want to make sure you get something that's going to fit you well. So look around. If you can go someplace and actually try them on, that would be great. So ladies, I've looked around. Very few of these places have female versions of these boots, so you're going to have to consider that you're going to probably have to get male boots and then just adjust the size to female, which is typically a size and a half to 2 sizes smaller than the male size. So just be aware that there is a size difference for the boots as well. Next slide, please. Okay, headwear. Vanguard has both of these hats for sale. The hats are, let me see my list. The hats are $15 each. You only need one. You don't have to have both. It depends on what you like. However, remember that you still have to have those patches on them depending on what your grade is. AFES also sells them if you have access to AFES online, and I haven't been to a local military facility to know if they sell these at the actual clothing sales or not. My guess is you're not going to find these at the Airman's Attic. You want to buy these new. Proper.com has them. Amazon has them. You will have to get the grade insignia from Vanguard, and that may include that you're going to have to get the Velcro to put on them if you want to do the Velcro insignia, which, as Major Rolfe said, we probably recommend that for cadets rather than having to keep resewing every time that they promote. Senior members, we don't promote that often, so you could probably sew them on and be done with it for a while. But those are the places that I was able to find this. Again, make sure that it is the OCP pattern, not any of the other patterns, so you're going to have to read carefully. Next slide, please. Okay, the last slide on where to find things. Again, the outerwear, cold weather accessories. Maryland Wing does not have a supply of OCP outerwear. You're going to have to look on these, for these on your own. AAFES, Vanguard, the same sources that we're looking at. Be sure to order coyote brown color. If you're getting that fleece, you're going to need the extra grade insignia, the CAP tape, your name tape as well. So there is a cost involved with this. If I bought the fleece and everything from Vanguard, I'm looking at an additional $62 before shipping and tax. So it is costly. There's a lot, there's so many different ways that we can do this. Squadrons, I would encourage you to talk amongst yourselves. Find a way that if you have a number of members that want to pool their resources together, just so that the wing has an account for Amazon, the wing has an account for Vanguard. If you order through our wing administrator, so say the squadron wants to order, a whole bunch of flag patches from Vanguard. Our wing administrator can order those, and through our wing account, then you will get you'll save on the tax, and depending on I'm not sure about the shipping off the top of my head. However, you'll save the tax. The money would be transferred out of your wing banker account, and you would just have to authorize that. So there, same with Amazon. We can order from Amazon, and you save the tax. Large orders that can be significant. You just have to reach out to the wing administrator, tell him what you want to order. Give that authorization. Obviously, if it's more than $500, your finance committee needs to give that approval in advance. And then the money would work through out of your wing banker account. So there's lots of options for these different things. Again, let me stress that be careful when you're buying things. Make sure it's coyote brown, it's tan $4.99. Make sure that you're buyer beware. Make sure that you're getting the size you need, and that everything is what you need. The fact that they shipped you the wrong thing is not a reason that we would permit you to wear something out of compliance. So again, you can't wear the ABU until you're completely in compliance, and so make sure that when you spend your money, that you're getting the right thing. I think that's the last slide for where to get things. Next slide, Major Rolfe. Okay, so we've reached the point with questions. I know that there were a number of questions in the chat, and Major Rolfe, I'm going to turn this over to you. I haven't been keeping up with what's been going on in the chat, so because I've been talking, so maybe you can help out with this.
All right, thank you. One conversation that's been going on quite a bit is about purchasing items at a military base. Access to the base doesn't guarantee you ability to buy stuff from clothing sales. I know Andrews is usually pretty good about letting people with cap IDs on base because there's a squadron that meets there. Fort Meade doesn't know us as well, but I've heard rumors of folks being able to get on just fine with a cap ID. It doesn't mean you get to go to the PX and buy the OCP items that you need to. I did go to Fort Meade about 2 weeks ago. The manager of the clothing sales store showed me an email that they were all sent, basically said, do not sell OCP items to CAP members. They need to be sent to an Air Force base. So take that as you will. I don't know if that's a specific policy or that's just a temporary, make sure they don't get bum rushed because the ICL came out. I was able to purchase OCPs because I have a retiree ID card, but even that's hit or miss because I'm retired Navy and Navy doesn't wear OCPs. So I just got lucky that the guy let me purchase. You're taking your chances if you go to Fort Meade. Andrews, I don't know. I haven't experienced it myself, but it's possible that they may also be having some kind of restriction as well. I see somebody said they were turned away as a cap ID as a cadet. I can't speak to the security at Andrews. That could also have just been the individual working the gate at that time. Other things that I think most of the other questions in the chat were answered. What we have the ability to do in this webinar is if you want to raise your hand, we can allow you to be unmuted and actually ask your question out loud if anyone else has anything that hasn't been addressed within the chat. If you're just going to comment on something else that's already been asked, please continue that in the chat, please. Base access is beyond the scope of this webinar. I think somebody actually mentioned it. It can be hit or miss depending on who's working the gate. And like I said, base access doesn't mean you can buy something once you get in. A question about cadet airman to officer ranks pinned to a blank blue tab. If you are a cadet airman through cadet chief master sergeant, those metal ranks are pinned to a blank blue tab. Once you are a cadet officer, they actually make the tab specific for those ranks. So cadet second lieutenant up through cadet colonel, those are actually embroidered tabs. And of note, if you are a if you are a cadet officer, the regulation does specify the orientation of those insignia, and so basically they will go vertically. If you are a cadet major, your diamond is turned kind of sideways. There's a question about the pros or cons of hot versus winter gear. I never wore OCPs in my military time. I can't speak from personal experience about how they wear. I personally, when in BDU days and follow-on uniforms, I never really felt much of a weather difference between hot and cold weather. It's really the what we call the snivel gear, the cold weather items that you wear underneath the uniform or on top, that really makes a difference about cold weather. Major Lundgren, question about the career uniform voucher. I have not heard anything back. I expect that the furloughed cadet program staff at headquarters will probably return to work tomorrow, and that they have a lot of catching up to do. All right, questions seem to be dying off. Colonel Reed, Colonel Thompson, do you have any additional comments?
My comments basically are, first of all, I appreciate you all taking the time to come out on this webinar and learn more about this. There's going to be a lot of questions, and so you're now have a lot more information than you did an hour ago. So I would hope that you would help your fellow members understand this regulation. Don't be afraid to help correct their uniforms. Again, let me say again that when we wear the OCP, we are going to look like the Air Force. We're not going to be extremely distinctive. So we want to make sure that we are wearing it with the highest standards possible. So make sure you're out there. There's still going to be a lot of questions. We will post this information not only in the unit commanders teams, but we'll post it in the e-news so that everybody has access to this. If you have any questions, remember that this slide deck and this webinar are not the final standard. The standard is the CAP Regulation 39-1. If you have any questions, that is our standard. It's not what you heard here. It's not what you see in social media. It's not what you hear in group chats. The regulation is the standard we go for. But again, I appreciate you all being here. I'm excited that we had a good turnout. This tells me we have a lot of interest in this. So keep talking, and with your folks, and let's get this right. Colonel Thompson, anything from you?
Nothing that hasn't already been covered. I am assuming that at some point, because we've had a lot of questions about the patches, I'm assuming that the approval stuff that we've been working on is going to be going out shortly.
Yes, it will be. The information that we just came up with, the whole slide deck on how to get your squadron patch in compliance, that did go out to the squadron commanders. It's just that whole process is going to take a little bit of time, depending on how quick the squadrons can turn around their proposed new version.
Yeah, and just to put people's minds at ease, almost all of the changes that we noticed, there are some exceptions, but almost all of them that we noticed while we were reviewing are very minor changes. Typically, it's positional items. Sometimes it's a color change, but generally no big deal for most folks.
Okay. Fortunately, if your squadron is not in compliance, that does not hold you up from wearing the OCP. If you really want to wear the OCP, you just cannot wear your squadron patch until it is in compliance. So, Major Rolfe, any final words of wisdom from you?
Just to reemphasize, wear it correctly, completely, or don't wear it. Again, it was put out multiple times. Squadron commanders cannot restrict the wear of it. It is an authorized uniform item. But as with all of our Air Force style uniforms, they need to be worn correctly if they are worn. If you have personnel not wearing them correctly, then they need to be wearing something else. That's all, ma'am.
All right, that's a good note to end it on. Thank you, everybody. If you have any further questions, run them up your chain of command, and we'll see if we can get you the answers you're looking for. But before you do that, check the regulation. That is our standard, and we'll get through this. It's 3 years. It's not a rush. We don't have to do this overnight. So take your time, get it right. Help your members get it right as well. So thank you again for attending. I appreciate all your time. Appreciate all you do for Maryland Wing and Civil Air Patrol. So we'll see you later. Thank you.